In 1982, the Dark Crystal was unleashed upon the world, a dark fantasy from the mind of Jim Henson. It's famous for being the first live-action movie without any humans appearing on screen. It released to mixed reception, though has developed a following since, large enough to warrant the creation of a prequel series. Looking back, was this lukewarm reaction deserved? Or is the Dark Crystal a secret masterpiece? Let's find out. We open on a barren landscape with a black castle beneath clouds and thunder. A narrator introduces us to this alien world.
Another world, another time, in the age of wonder.
This first line is an interesting mixture of vagueness and specificity. We don't know what this world is, or when this story is set, yet we're told it's the age of wonder. The audience can't know what this means, so why is it here? It implies depth to this world. Just as our world has many ages and eras, so does this one. There is a lengthy history here. The narrator continues.
1,000 years ago, this land was green and good, until the crystal cracked. Two new races appeared. The cruel Skeksis, the gentle mystics.
We're told the Skeksis have ruled 1,000 years, ravaging the land and extending their lives through the dark crystal and the power of the sun. He then describes these new races with parallel language.
The Skeksis with their hard and twisted bodies, yet now there are only 10. A dying race. But today the ceremony of the sun gives no comfort. Today an emperor lies dying, the race of mystics. Their ways were the gentle ways of natural wizards. Yet now there are only 10. A dying race. But today, the ritual gives no comfort. Today, the wisest of the mystics lies dying.
Within the first 5 minutes, there is strong allusion to a connection between the Skeksis and the mystics. This subtly tells the audience to look for further parallels, preparing them for the movie's ending twist. I'll continue to point out these connections throughout the movie. The narrator delivers some redundant information. He says,
In the valley of the mystics, there lives a gelfling, Jen. The Skeksis killed his family.
Only for Jen to say,
The Skeksis killed my mother and father.
And the narrator also says,
There is a prophecy. Now once more the world must undergo a time of testing. Jen is the chosen one.
While moments later, the mystic leader says,
Oh, the prophecy says you must find the shard to save our world, Gelfling.
We don't need the narrator to start going to Jen's backstory or the prophecy, when those are going to be brought up in dialogue in the very next scene. I'll grant that the mystics give new information regarding the prophecy, but its introduction as a concept is still repeated unnecessarily. And then there's the line,
And a journey must begin. The journey of Jen.
He acts as though the second part explains the first, when it doesn't. It's just clunky. Overall, the narration starts strong but ends awkwardly. Jen is told that to save the world, he must find the crystal shard before the 3 suns align. He must get the shard from someone named Aughra.
Follow the greater sun for a day to the home of Aughra.
I find those directions somewhat lacking. Back at the castle, the general and chamberlain approach the emperor's chambers.
I hate your whimper.
I think it's funny, despite how often he does it.
Quiet!
Okay, maybe it's a little annoying. They gather around the dying emperor, and Chamberlain tries to take his scepter. A chamberlain is an attendant on a sovereign or lord in his bedchamber. So the role of this Skeksis is to obey and aid the emperor in this room specifically. Yet, Chamberlain tries to use this opportunity to steal the symbol of his authority. He isn't even dead yet. This shows a lack of loyalty and a willingness to commit underhanded acts for status and power. The Emperor and the leader of the Mystics die simultaneously. Each death is indicative of each character's nature. The Emperor has withered into a pitiful creature, desperately clinging to life. He decays and crumbles. But the Mystic closes his eyes and rests his head, as if to sleep. He is gentle and dignified, fading away, like a Jedi. At this point, I wonder if much of the narration was necessary. Its description of the two races has been demonstrated well with the visual language alone. After the Mystic leader's death, the others straight up mail his stuff to the afterlife? This raises all kinds of questions about what the Mystics are capable of, and the nature of this universe's afterlife. I'll delve further into this later. The Mystics send Jin to find the crystal shard. Why didn't they do this sooner? He needs to get the shard before the three suns meet, so why wait until the 11th hour?
I should have told you these things long ago.
Why didn't you? Did you forget? Do you have dementia, old man?
90% of the time, I have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about.
So far, Jen is established to be heavily reliant on the Mystics, and uncertain of his own abilities.
Aughra, follow the greatest sun. But Master, I'm only a gelfling.
Remember me, Jen.
Master, don't leave me.
So it's jarring when we get this line.
I'm not ready to go alone. All right? Alone then.
In seconds, he shifts from uncertainty to determination without any prompting. It might have worked better had there been something concrete that Jen was using to bolster his resolve. Perhaps some words of encouragement from the other Mystics, or a memory of something encouraging his master told him once. Here it feels like he's gained courage only because the story needs him to. In the throne room, the Skeksis chatter about who will become the new emperor. When Chamberlain goes to take the scepter, the general challenges him for it.
Trial by stone.
Their slaves raise a slab of stone and two swords from the ground. It's a strength competition of sorts. Unlike the Mystics, who are led by the wisest among them, the Skeksis let brute strength determine their ruler. The general wins, becoming the new emperor, and Chamberlain is cast out. They strip him and tell him to get fucked. Beneath the bulky, extravagant dress, the Skeksis are scrawny, disgusting creatures. Their clothing is a poor disguise for their ugliness, yet even that is taken away from Chamberlain.
As Jim and Brian and I talked about, these Skeksis have layers and layers and layers of clothing. In essence, it's their jewelry, it's their hierarchy. The more lace and jewelry, the prouder they are of themselves.
The Dark Crystal calls them to show them Jen.
The prophecy says Gelfling will destroy us.
The general sends monsters called Garthim to kill and capture Jen. Chamberlain overhears this and gets an idea. His grab at power has failed and backfired, but he isn't out of the game just yet. A creature with a crystal eye observes Jen. Later, we're told it's a crystal bat and acts as a scout for the Skeksis. We can assume they are inventions of the scientist, given all the animals in his laboratory. Jen travels across various terrain, showing off vast, beautiful landscapes. This is spoiled, however, by Jen's inner monologue.
This place is weird. Who is Aughra anyway? One of these things? Maybe she murders gelflings.
Why would the Mystic send you to a gelfling murderer? Jen comes off pretty whiny here.
What am I doing here?
You're trying to get the shard to save the world. Remember, do you also have dementia? In a work print version of this scene, the inner monologue is absent, letting Jen walk through this area silently. I wonder if the monologue was added later to give clarity to Jen's actions, or to try characterizing him further. If so, it didn't work. We aren't told anything new, and Jen comes off as confused and lacking in critical thinking. Jen meets Aughra.
Are you a Gelfling?
Yes.
The Gelfling all dead. Gartham kill them all. You can't be Gelfling.
This tells us that the Gartham are responsible for wiping out the Gelfling, the very same Gartham that have been sent after Jen. This raises the stakes by clarifying how much danger he's in.
Who sent you?
My master. Wisest of the Mystics.
Where is he? Around here?
He's dead.
Could be anywhere then.
This implies the dead might have some kind of influence on the world of the living, an influence Aughra is aware of. Mystics fade away like Jedi. Maybe they come back as Force ghosts. This, and the heavenly mailing service from earlier, are the only references to such connections with the afterlife. It's not followed up on, so it sticks out as a strange implication. Aughra leads Jen into her home, which contains a massive orrery.
Everything in the heavens is here. Suns, moons, stars.
Suns and stars are the same thing? Way to sound like a total idiot, Aughra. 1,000 years ago, she witnessed a great conjunction, the alignment of the 3 suns. And that's when the crystal cracked.
Another great conjunction coming up. Anything could happen. Better have your shard before that, Gelfling.
She further explains what a conjunction is.
The great conjunction is the end of the world. Oh, the beginning? All the same. Big change. Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Did I say explain? I meant revels in vagary.
What do I do with the shard?
Heal the dark crystal.
But how?
Questions, too many questions.
Okay, that one's on you, Jen. You've got to heal the crystal with a shard of the crystal. It's kind of obvious, isn't it? But Aughra's response is still disconcerting. This is an important mission. Why isn't she explaining anything and everything he needs to know? She presents a box of shards.
Which one is it?
Don't know.
There's an interesting difference in how this line was delivered in the work print version of this scene.
Which one is it?
Don't know?
Aside from originally being voiced by Fozzie Bear, the line is delivered as a question to Jen rather than a statement about herself. Each version leads to its own issues given what follows. Jen narrows down the shards to 3 options, somehow, then recalls the magical chanting of the mystics. This inspires him to play a similar note with his flute, revealing the true shard.
There is much to be learned, and you have no time. You've already taken too long, Gelfling. Hurry!
If Aughra doesn't know which shard is the correct one, why isn't she helping Jen figure it out? In fact, why would she ever have lost track of it? What are you doing with all these fake shards? It's the single most important item.
Pause in the world.
What are you doing? If she does know, then this is likely a test for Jen, though I can't see what it's meant to prove. There isn't any test mentioned in the prophecy, and she keeps emphasizing that he needs to hurry. Why would she waste time with this? We were told that Aughra is a keeper of secrets. She's introduced with an air of mystery. She speaks strangely and seems to know a lot more than she lets on.
Aughra is another symbolic character. She is the Earth Mother. She really is the Earth itself. I mean, she knows a lot about this world. She keeps things secrets. I mean, she's very ambivalent. You never know quite which side she's on.
It was very intriguing to create a character that seems to know so much, but she's ambivalent. You know, you don't know, the great thing about her, you don't know whether to trust her or not. We never really know which side she's on, and maybe she doesn't know.
She's meant to be an ambivalent entity in all this, and some of her dialogue supports this.
And begin, all the same, big change. Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Perhaps this is why she wastes Jen's time with a random test. She doesn't necessarily care what happens one way or the other. There's a cut line that might have further supported this.
Whole world might burn up. End of Aughra. We all turn to smoke in the end. Maybe not be so bad. Smoke. Float around in the air. See world,
Now, this is all nice and good, but Aughra does help Jen. Despite how confusing it all comes across, she gives him more information about his quest. She gives him the shard he needs to complete it, and she urges him onward. Why bother if she isn't invested? This all shapes up to make Aughra a very confusing character. The Gartham break through the walls and destroy the orrery in an attempt to get at Jen. Jen escapes, but is concerned for Aughra. though apparently not enough to go back and help her. Back in the valley, the Mystics head out on a journey of their own.
The crystal calls.
They have some psychic link to the crystal, and we'll see them sense the shard throughout the movie. This connection was first hinted at earlier, when the shard reacted to a note Jen played inspired by their chanting. The Skeksis have no such connection. I think this difference in ability is indicative of the two races' underlying nature. The Mystics are shown to be spiritually open and connected to otherworldly forces, while the Skeksis are described as
imprisoned within themselves.
After Jen escapes, we get lingering, panning shots of the environment, and the way it's brought to life is amazing.
Everything in this world is alive. I designed lots and lots of creatures and tried to create things again that you've never quite seen before. And are things trees? Is it plant? Or is it animal? I was always trying to create things that had transition.
Never before have I seen an alien world and believed in its alienness. Much is done to separate this world from ours.
Now I've got the shard. But what do I do with it? Am I supposed to take it somewhere?
First of all, this should be obvious to Jen. Second of all, why didn't the Mystics tell Jen anything? They've left him completely in the dark when the fate of the world hangs in the balance. What is with these guys?
Jim's concept with the Mystics was they had purged themselves of all their bad lower selves, but this meant that they were incapable of really acting in the world.
But that doesn't quite work. They acted enough to send Jen on this quest in the first place. And as we'll see later, the Mystics are on a journey of their own, and will play a major role in the movie's climax. They're clearly capable of acting in the world. They probably thought it would be funny to keep Jen perpetually confused about everything.
We have purposely trained him wrong, as a joke.
The shard shows Jen a silhouette of a Skeksis taking a hammer to the crystal. Is this the moment the crystal cracked? We'll get more answers later, and like most answers in this movie, it only makes things more confusing.